I'm not worried about it. I can stand over this. Cora Staunton, Lee McHale, Kevin Kilban, and Kieran MacDonald.
OTB AM's Mt Rushmore.
You're welcome back to Friday's OTB AM. A little bit of a switcheroo here because Adrian is very much moving into the other chair. He's going full pundit because it is the Mt Rushmore of what he will say is the greatest county of all, which is Westmeath. Delighted to say as well that Golf Channel's Conor Moore is with us. How are you, Conor?
I'm doing well. How are you, lads?
Not too bad. This must be an unusual situation, judging the Mt Rushmore of Westmeath all the way from Miami.
No, it is, yeah. I've noticed I did a Insta Live there last week with Conor Moore, and he put up on Twitter, he says, I'll be talking to Westmeath GA legend Conor Sketches this evening. And I kind of thought, how has no one jumped on that? Because I said, Mort, the last time I had any involved in Westmeath, I got dropped from the Westmeath County Minor panel at Easter before the final cut of the championship, but to have made legendary status now, I've done very well for myself.
When you think Westmeath, Mt Rushmore, when you think about Westmeath sporting legends, is there any sort of moment in your life that gets evoked?
Oh yeah, 2004, the Leinster Championship was probably the most enjoyable summer I've ever had in my life. It's one of those, like, obviously you'll never get it back. They can win all the Leinsters, they want to win again. But that was, I remember being, I think I was about 14, 15, but I bought my first pint in a pub. There was no rules that night. Now, and I'm just about 5'6", 5'5.5". I'd say I must have been about 4'10" when I was 14, because I was always just really small, and I made a good sprout when I was about 16. But I don't know how it was, but that night there was literally no rules. You could walk up to the bar, pint Heineken, please. Pint Heineken, please. Give your money, and that was it. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, an unbelievable time. I dare say it's going to be mentioned a bit over the course of the next little while. So the vague parameters here, I will say vague because it's up to you guys to really come up with the rules yourselves, is for Adrian to come at us with his Mt Rushmore, his 4 greatest Westmeath sporting legends. Conor, you might give your 4 then. It doesn't matter how many of a difference you've got, you will only be able to make one change to Adrian's Mt Rushmore at the end. We will also have a final pitch from a special guest very shortly as well. Adrian, I may as well hand this over to you. Take us away in terms of your Westmeath Mt Rushmore, your thought process, and who our first face on that mountain might be.
I've been so nervous about this one. I have to admit, I haven't been this nervous since halftime against Meath in 2015. But the palms are sweaty, and as you can see, like, I've spent a huge amount of time doing the set here behind me. Yeah, it's sort of representative of a lot of the people, the 3 of the 4 that I'm going to put up on Mt Rushmore anyway. So that'll probably give people an indication straight away. And yeah, I initially, when I started thinking about it, I thought, like, it'll probably be pretty straightforward. Like, we don't, when you go through it, have the pick of, like, great counties on, like Kerry, obviously, Dublin, listen to Galway during the week. Like, there isn't that volume of quality necessarily, but there is some serious picks in there. So I'm going to, just go straight in with a couple and then maybe the other people we were thinking about. We might leave GA for the minute because I think that, like, constitutes the vast majority of the runners and riders. So I'm going to go straight in with the person that I believe is in the running to be the greatest Westmeath sport person of all time, John Evan. I think when you boil it down, like, the names that come up in the boxing circles obviously are himself and Joe Ward, but I think that when you look at the quantity of medals, it probably tips slightly in Joe Ward's favour. Like, heading into an exciting time obviously from him on the professional side of things. And a hatful of medals from his amateur game. But really, it's that Olympic silver medal for John Evan. And I watched back, actually, some of the semi-final and the final over the last couple of days from London in 2012. Like, you forget that he beat the top-ranked, the world champion from Cuba, the reigning champion from Cuba, in the semi-finals. And didn't just beat him either. Like, he was 3 points up with a round to go. Like, blitzed this guy in the semi-finals. And came up, a lot of people, when I mention the name Luke Campbell, will remember that bantamweight final in London, and Campbell with all the home sport behind him. But John Evan, like, for his style of fighting that week, for the smile that he brought to proceedings, you're coming into such a pressure zone in the copper box that week, and he's smiling, he's on his toes. The crowd are behind him all the way up to the final when he's taking on a Brit, obviously. But when you look at his career, the records that he's had. European gold in Minsk 2013 and the European Championships, 2 bronze at the world stage, and both times, by the way, losing by a single point, a countback, and 2011 bronze in Baku, saw him become the first Irish male boxer, by the way, to win 2 World Championship medals, and his crowning glory, of course, as well, the silver in London 2012. And at that point, becoming the first Irish male, it should be said, because obviously a female had gone before, to medal at European, world, and Olympic level. What a career! Like, 14-0, I think, at professional level. Had a big win back in November against Freddie Fonseca. Probably still a bit of work to be done at that end to fully prove himself. He's over 30 now, so obviously time will be running out on him. But what a career! And I think that, as a first pick and arguably the greatest ever Irish sports person, I'm putting John Evan up there straight away.
Geez, that's a pretty convincing case straight off the bat there, Adrian. Conor, we'll come to you in just a moment just to see how much of that actually overlaps with your Mount Rushmore. You might just go straight into your second one there for us, Adrian.
Yeah, so I think when you talk about soccer and Athlone, one name that always gets mentioned, and people laugh about it and say he shouldn't be included in this list. But listen, it's where his links are from, and so I'm running with it either way. And we don't have a huge amount of international footballers to pick from. John Aldridge is one of the runners and riders. Not putting him on. I was tempted. I
didn't want to be all nationalist or anything.
How seriously did you consider Aldo, Conor?
I did have a look at it. I didn't consider him though.
That's only because he's from Athlone, though, Conor. Come on.
For me, it's I don't know. I didn't. There was another soccer man that I really considered, but Aldridge wasn't one of them. I did have him. I wrote him down, but he wasn't on my. He definitely wasn't making my world.
The thing that goes against him, obviously, largely, is that he doesn't have that same. Kevin Kilbane obviously has his roots, and to be fair, more direct roots to Mayo than Aldridge has to Athlone. It was his great grandmother Mary Mills was from Athlone, and but obviously, so there isn't that connection. Like, if you gave John Aldridge a map, would he be able to pinpoint where Athlone is? You probably doubt it. So
for the middle, John.
Probably a key criteria.
Never even seen the wall or the mount.
the name that I'm going to go for my second pick on the Mount Rushmore is Turlough O'Connor. So this is a guy, and we talk about. There's been a lot of recency bias, I would say, on the list so far. People, particularly the first list that was done by Nathan, the fact that he forgot the 9-time Olympic medalist was unlucky not to make the cut. You must be effing joking me. Anyway, we're not exactly going back to the annals of time for Turlough O'Connor, but it's 1960s. He's a name that any reasonable League of Ireland fan, the name will trip off the tongue. A Bohemians legend, scored hatfuls of goals at Bows, hatfuls of goals at Dundalk. Laid Athlone as a manager to a couple of league titles, 81 and 83, an FAI Cup as well. Really interesting story from a really interesting family, by the way, as well. His brother, Michael O'Connor, another League of Ireland legend, Padraig O'Connor, played for Athlone. His father, Turlough O'Connor, played basketball for Ireland. His sister, Kathleen McCarth, played basketball, I think, for Ireland as well. An incredible Irish sporting family. But it's Turlough really is the standout. He had a big chance to make it in England as well. Went to Fulham in 1966, of all years, would you believe. Had a pretty torrid time with injury. Bobby Robson was manager, I think, at the time. Only turned out once for Fulham. Went home, ended up contacting Bobby Robson saying, listen, I ain't going back. It's not for me. But as I said, went on to have an unbelievable, I think he might be still in the top 5 all-time scorers in the League of Ireland. So that gives you a bit of a sense of what you're dealing with. And to cap it all off, 7 caps for the Republic of Ireland is the one that, when we talk about the grain of rice that tilts it, that's the grain of rice that tilts it for me. That means that he has to be up on the Westmeath Mt Rushmore.
It's interesting that he's in there. I was I wonder, is that the football person that you were referring to there, Conor, that you considered?
Yeah, considered. And now this is definitely from my football ignorance going back to that time. I've only learnt a lot about Turlough. I've heard his name before, but only in the last couple of days, and I have been blown away that there was a fella that good. Didn't know he had any real top soccer players, but he really was. And he's 4th in the all-time League of Ireland scoring list. Scored twice for Ireland. He scored in European competitions. Scored against Rangers as well. That was a big one we liked. Yeah, he initially wasn't on my wall, and now he's in the 4th, 5th spot.
I see.
It's it's hard not to see him up on the wall. He was just so good.
The persuasion techniques are working here, Adrian.
I think some of it will be like it's a shitty. This is a shitty task, right? That absolutely needs to be said, because like it's such a difficult call. Like we'll get into some of the GA names in a minute, and like one of them particularly you can't leave off the list. But like you're trying to weigh that up with somebody who obviously achieved at the international level, and that's the difficulty. There's no sort of comparative. Like it's a shitty task in some ways, but for me, the 7 caps is the thing that tips it over for me.
Who is the GEA person, Adrian?
I just give you a bit of a sense of some of the runners and riders I think on. Well,
Sure.
just in terms of who I was thinking about, and Conor can definitely jump in at any point that he wants. Like John Keane is not a player that you can disregard in a conversation like this. He's the only, I think, double All-Star ever for Westmeath. Obviously won that first one in 2004, a big part of that team. Like a bit of the Dennis Irwins about him, I'd say, kind of like not only from a positional point of view, but certainly sort of was an 8 out of 10 almost every game, like an absolute quality player. Went on to win one again, I think it would have been 2008 after that. But quiet and efficient, and like pushing hard for a conversation like this. Rory O'Connell's another one. The county's first ever football All-Star, big part in 2004, himself and David O'Shaughnessy lording the skies, like when, you know, winning that primary possession around midfield from the kick-out was such a key thing. So Rory has to be in a conversation like this. Willie Lowry, there was a couple of names that would have been in the recesses of your mind, I suppose, coming into this, that Tom Hunt was a guy that knows a thing or two about the history of Westmeath football, although he's not from Westmeath, or Westmeath sport, and was a guy I hopped some of these off. Spoke like very fondly about Willie Lowry. He reckons arguably the best all-around player to have ever come out of the county. Dual player, played off either foot, bit of an eccentric, which you love about your sports people. Big scoring midfielders in the 80s, and toured. Apparently the All-Stars used to pick a dual player at some point. You know, somebody who was of a high enough standard in both goals, and apparently he was that pick in 82. Spike Fagan, I'm sure Conor's going to give him a shout as well. Mullingar Shamrocks, 8 county titles, like suffered probably from not being surrounded by anybody really, of any needed players around him. Would have been unbelievable in the Westmeath teams that were to come after him after he retired. Fergal Murray is one of the few that has that holy trinity: the minor, the under-21 All-Ireland, and then that Leinster in 2004. And on the hurling side, David Kilcoyne, county's first ever All-Star in either code. Brendan Murtagh, arguably one of the finest hurlers the county's ever seen. And Jobber McGrath is a name that we need to mention as well, that, you know, going back over the years again, played for Westmeath for 15 years and widely acclaimed by those who saw him, hurled for Loughlane Gales. So I'm sure Conor's been nodding away at some of them that terms of runners and riders, but
I'm a big Willie Lowry fan.
Yeah.
Had a good session with him there. Well, usually I'm usually at the Westmeath New York dinner dance. He's the Mick Jagger of Castletown Gagan. He's still got the long hair. He's walking around. He's one of the coolest men. I'm like, if I'm like him when I'm his age, I'll be like. And I actually was drinking with him out in Castletown a couple of months ago and met him at a funeral. But he's good pals. My uncle was telling me about him. He was just supposed to be unbelievable. He's brilliant. Then he went out to New York. He was class. Spike again, man of the match for Ireland against Australia in the second game in 86. He was, the first high-profile footballer we had. And then he was a part of that brilliant Shamrocks team that won all those. I definitely think in terms of mentions, I think John Heslin deserves a mention. And I know he's still playing or whatever, but like if Rory's in it and John Keane, and I know they've won the Leinster Championship, but like I'd say, imagine what Heslin would have been doing if he was back on that team.
And people talked about him as like the Michael Murphy, like that sort of quality.
And just brilliant, and like just from what, like obviously would have seen him up close, especially in club games. And I remember, like he was 17 at the first county final, I think. Like I remember the under-21. Remember we got to the Leinster final. I think the Dubs bet us. He was.
Oh yeah, the Blitzter.
Awesome. That was the time. It was like pulling balls out of the sky, but very of that ilk, like a Willie Lowry. You know, 2 feet, all the skills of a smaller man, and he's a big dude. And then I thought on the hurling side, David Kilcoyne, definitely. He's our only All-Star on the hurling side. Brendan Murtagh, I also thought deserves a shout. Like he's a freak. He's still going. I'd say Westmeath would still love to have him in the team. He's a selector with them now at the minute, like 6 county championships. And he's got 2 with the Downs actually in football. He's actually a very, very good footballer as well. But yeah, in and around that. But I think we all know who the GA person going up on the wall is.
It's going to be Desi, Adrian, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't, as an Athlone club, and it doesn't give me any satisfaction at all to be sticking him up there. But listen, he's got to go. He's got to go up there. Like inarguably, like when you talk to people, I've been talking to people over the last couple of weeks about all of this, and like it's just you can't but put him up there. Like the record is there. Like he would have got into any forward six of any county at the time that he played, like in his pomp in the 2000s. The style of the man, like that sort of, like he wasn't particularly tall either, Conor, but he'd be like that low centre of gravity. He'd sort of have the ball in two hands and have defenders back in the heels. Like obviously had the responsibility of the dead ball, which didn't always go his way. I was sat behind him against Meath that year when oh, Jesus Christ. Like, oh,
you know what? I'd nearly take him off Mount Rushmore for that.
But
I'm in a WhatsApp group and the boys always sending that he did the ad then, or he missed the free or whatever. But yeah, he just, Desi beyond that wall in 200 or 300 years. 200 or 300 years. He's, like, I remember the first time I heard of Desi was the under-21s, got to the All-Ireland final in 99. The Bet Kerry won 12-9. Like that Kerry team had, like, I think Tom O'Sullivan was marking him that day. There was Tomas O'Shea, Paul Galvin was playing. And that really kicked it all off it was the minors kicked it all off for Westmeath. But he was, like you said, he wasn't very tall. He wasn't known for having a great left foot or anything. And yet he still kicked 6-7 points every game. Like,
yeah.
He was just unbelievable.
There was a bit of that, like that Sean Kavanagh type shuffle, and you knew it was coming, and there was still very little you could do about it.
Exactly, yeah. I remember 2014, like they won a county championship last year. We played them in the final in 2014, and I remember the narrative, definitely from the players, was, "Oh, Desi's finished. Like he's too slow, and there's no, he's no problem. We don't have to worry about him tomorrow." We were very confident going into the game, and he played at centre forward. And he genuinely ripped us apart. From centre forward, he wasn't playing in the corner. He wasn't, his usual, corner forward style. It was like he was Perlo. He was just getting the ball. He was spraying passes here, there, and everywhere. We were never really within touching distance of them that day. It was a game that just from start to finish, they just grinded out. But he was a part of like a great, great team. I actually picked the best club team for the last 20 years with a few Gary Castle lads. They had such a good team. Like I was thinking, you could only pick 3 from each club. They could have 5 or 6 on it, and they just built that team kind of and around Desi, and he drove it on. And he is for me, he's number one.
Really?
Yeah, he was. Obviously, I'm going to be biased. Like it's a GA thing, but for me, just growing up, everybody wanted to be Desi Dolan. Like my last picture of competitive GA action is me holding Desi back by the I must send it to you. It's very, very fun.
That's class.
Literally, I'm behind him and I'm literally holding his jersey.
Yeah, you would maybe that'll be the sculpture that goes into Mount Rushmore. Right?
Like I think it's such an important. I think the reason why Desi be number one for a lot of people is just that very simple thing: is that he literally wore the Westmeath jersey. And like we're going to talk about players who played for Ireland. We've got rugby coming up in just a moment. I dare say, because I can see that jersey behind you. But the GEA is the embodiment of the county here, and whoever is the number one GEA star tends to be the number one person associated with each county when we're going through these things on a Mount Rushmore basis. And I'm not surprised to hear that at all. Who have you been speaking to, Adrian, that's been giving you this information that Desi was going to be number one? Who have you been scouting with?
What do you mean, give me the information?
You said you've been picking up the phone and...
I rang a few people. I used to have a couple of mates that played around that 2014 to get a sense of what was going on. I know we've John Hasling coming up as well, I think a little bit later. He's got a couple of good stories about him, but just try to canvass a couple of people who played with him and who would have been around the scene for years. And like there isn't an argument. It's the point. Like people we've mentioned all the other names. John Keane is a name that definitely pushes him close, I think. But as I mentioned, like there's a bit more of the Dennis Irwins about John Keane that he maybe goes under the radar a small bit.
Well, he does, yeah, but he was like I know from talk like Alan Brogan to tell you, or Colin Parkinson then, like he was the worst guy. You just did not want to mark John Keane. And in 2004, I don't know if he played under Luke Dempsey at senior level, because it was first under Proddy in 2004 that he started playing for the senior team. Or he might have played a little bit, but then didn't. There was something there. He didn't play under Luke anyway, 2002-3. But 2004, he was just unbelievable. Like, he gets a hand in. Like, anytime he got the ball, he just gave it off.
Yeah.
Someone said, I don't know if this stat was true, but I remember it was widely thrown out there at the time that he only took one solo during Westmeath's championship run in 2004.
Wow.
As soon as he got it, he just gave it away. He wasn't full of great skill or anything, but he just was so tenacious and he timed everything just so well. Like, didn't dive in, just got the hand in. He was just such a crafty cornerback. Like, he's one of the best cornerbacks in my opinion. Like, even like we played Wexford, he was the guy on Matty Ford. He was the guy, he marked everybody. He definitely is the best defender Westmeath have ever had.
Adrian, we should crack on and get the final member of your Mount Rushmore before we allow Conor to make a change.
Well, I'll give a couple of others that were in the mixer.
Okay.
Mark Rowan definitely can't leave this conversation without mentioning him. Like, big contender for the Final Four as well. Double gold medalist in London 2012, twice a World Cup winner, silver medalist in Spain. The World Championship was probably the biggest thing that he achieved. Played Leinster, played for Westmeath as well at minor level, and was just into the under-21s before his accident. So, like, absolutely pushing here. Sort of 5, 6, 7, you would think in that direction. Slightly controversial right this side. I didn't really know what to do with it, but I went with it anyway, and I put Michael and Eddie O'Leary in the mix. I didn't know what to do. Like, there's that great Brian Kerr phrase about horse racing, like, is it the horse? Is it the trainer? Is it the owner? Is it the jockey? I don't know who to all responsible for all of it, but I think, like, when it boils down to it, they've flown the maroon and white colours internationally with unbelievable success. You just have to look at the record, what they've achieved over the last few years. So screw it. I'm putting them in the short list anyway, either way. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but on they go. And then after that, the last one that I would put up on the list would be Robbie Henshaw. Like, you know, again, watching over the last couple of weeks, the lists that have come out, like, you get whoever's made the final calls on these things over the last few weeks, they'll say, yeah, but like, they're a great player, but, you know, like, they're still active. Like, you know, they've loads to run in their career, and it's used as this sort of thing to, like, we would have given it to you, but, like, you're still playing. But I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm putting Robbie Henshaw up there. I think from a Westmeath perspective, having done what he's done over the last number of years, he's still only, like, I think maybe 26, something like that. Played for Connacht, obviously won the first ever Pro 12 there. What he's won with Leinster, back-to-back Pro 14s, won Heineken Cup, beat the All Blacks all on his own in Chicago, like, represented the Lions, got cruelly injured, obviously had to come back, will go on to achieve bigger and better things. I'm putting that out there. But regardless of that, deserves to be up there on what he's achieved already. Should have another 12 or 15 caps only for all the injuries. Robbie Henshaw has got to be up there.
So Robbie Henshaw, the final member of your current Mount Rushmore at the moment. Just to recap, it's Turlough O'Connor, Desi Dolan, John Joe Nevin, and Robbie Henshaw. Conor, while you're mulling over who you were going to change, if you were going to change, maybe he's got it perfect and you were absolutely rubber stamped this Mount Rushmore. While you were having a think,
you tell that grade he's not. There's not.
While you were having a think, I just want to play you a quick clip from OTB AM from back in the summer of 2018. Now, Adrian is prone to changing his mind because this is the Mount Rushmore he picked back then. Quick question for you, Adrian. Who's your for Mount Rushmore and the Westmeath Mount Rushmore?
Seeing as you haven't included him, I mean, incredibly, it's a slight on the man, but I will happily take ownership of Paddy O'Shea. I'm not sure there's a mountain high enough. I think the highest mountain in Westmeath is probably about the height of this desk. It's a pretty flat area, but I'm going to put him in there.
So one Kerry man on the Westmeath Mount Rushmore.
I can do what I want with it. It's my Mount Rushmore, and he's an honorary Westmeath man as far as I'm concerned. John Aldridge, of course, has to be on the Westmeath Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
Obviously.
Okay.
Joe Dolan is going to, I mean, he's got to be in there. And after that, it's a kind of a toss-up between, like, Niall Horan, Brezzy, Spike Fagan, Rory O'Connell, Desi, that sort of thing.
Robbie Henshaw?
Robbie Henshaw. How did I miss Robbie Henshaw?
Well, because you were bad at putting together Mount Rushmore, you picked the Kerry man. There you go. That is Adrian's Mount Rushmore from the summer.
Not a bad stab off the top of my head.
No, with the names you mentioned, I was a little bit annoyed I didn't get at least an honour.
Hang on now. You were working for Joe at the time. I couldn't mention it.
That was competition.
Conor, if you have to change Adrian's 2020 version of Mount Rushmore, what are you doing? What are you thinking of altering?
Well, first off, that just made me think of something like when Paddy was mentioned. Obviously, Paddy, in my opinion, is down. He's on the mountain in Kerry. But also, Luke Dempsey deserves a mention for what he kickstarted in Westmeath. I don't think we would have had a Leinster Championship if it was only for Luke. He came around in '95 and what he did. It's my earliest sporting memory, actually, in '95, watching the All-Ireland final.
Another import, Conor. That's the difficulty there.
Yeah, I know but he lives in Westmeath. I think he's a Westmeath man at this stage. He teaches in Westmeath. He lives in Mullingar. But anyway, my Mount Rushmore initially was Desi Dolan, Robbie Henshaw, John Joe Nevin, and Pamela Greville was my original mountain. I just think no one has had a bigger impact probably in their sport than Pamela Greville has. You know, she kicked it off with an All-Ireland Junior B in 2011, I think it was. Then won the junior, then won the Premier Junior a couple of years ago, then won the intermediate last year, intermediate player of the year, and then a Leinster Junior with Raharney. She literally has been the heartbeat of Westmeath Camogie and dragged it all the way from Junior B to now they're playing in senior. I think this would have been her first time ever playing a senior match. Now, obviously, the coronavirus has put a stop to that till next year. But she was staying off for another year or two. She's from like a massive hurling family out in Raharney, the Grevilles. Her dad was like a legend in the goals for years. The brothers are making big names in the coaching. But Pamela Greville, for me, it's like, and it's by no means like a gender thing or a woman thing. She genuinely is deserving, in my opinion, of being up on that mountain. She just for her sporting achievements alone.
Right, so what we seem to have here is a battle between Pamela Greville and Turlough O'Connor. Before you confirm it, am I right in saying that, Conor, it is between those two for the last spot?
Yeah, it is.
Well, before you commit to it, and I'll give you a little bit of extra time to mull over, because we've started doing this last pitch here on OTB AM's Mount Rushmore. So one last persuasion technique. Today it's from Westmeath referee Barry Kelly. So he sent us in this video. Have a look at this.
My fourth choice, and I suppose my Mount Rushmore definite choice, is a hurler by the name of John Jobber McGrath, who was a Westmeath hurler in the late 1940s, throughout the 1950s, and for about the first 5 or 6 years of the 1960s. In fact, we're just gone past the 40th anniversary of his death. No less a figure than Eamon Cregan said that John Jobber McGrath was a boyhood hero of his, and Eamon Cregan recalled seeing him scoring 4 goals and 4 points for Westmeath against Limerick in a National League game in 1956, the same year in which he represented Leinster at Railway Cup level, in which they defeated Munster in the final. He hurled for his club Rickardstown for over 20 years, winning 3 Westmeath senior hurling championships, and he was selected in 1984 on the GAA's team of the century that had never won an All-Ireland senior hurling medal. So he's regarded certainly as a legend in Westmeath hurling circles. So they're my 4 choices. Just to finish off, Tommy and the other lads, I was thinking of a Mount Rushmore sporting moors in the Mullingar area, and I came up with Conor's uncle Ned, his dad Tom, no mean golfer, his younger brother Dean, and his first cousin Eddie. And in fact, if we went for a second Mount Rushmore for moors, it would include his cousin Keith, his other cousin Gary, his older brother Darren, and his uncle Jimmy Chute. So just in case Conor Moore tries to claim that his football career was put on hold by his career in the world of entertainment, that is not the case. He wouldn't make a second Mount Rushmore sporting moors, and plenty of other lads will tell you that as well. Okay, signing off from Mullingar. Thanks, lads. Bye.
The drink finished us all.
Has other than the very persuasive techniques on the Mount Rushmore of moors, has he persuaded you against your decision here, Conor?
With the jobber, has he persuaded me? Yeah, the only thing is the more I've read about Turlough, O'Connor in the last couple of days, like obviously putting them, to me, it's still Pamela Gravel.
Okay.
Number 4, but I am definitely biased towards this time or this generation.
Sure.
And I'm not appreciating what's gone before me because I wasn't there. But
Well, you are allowed to make one change. I mean, that these are the rules of the game. Just to confirm, though, the person you were looking to change is Turlough O'Connor. You want to keep Desi Dolan, John Joe Nevin and Robbie Henshaw. And you were looking to replace Turlough O'Connor with Pamela Gravel.
yeah, I was thinking about maybe Robbie and just texting him, if you were retired, you'd definitely be on it. But
We'll get to you next year.
I like from all, like when I started doing this, like, and I was texting a few people and everything, Pam, I don't know if I can take Turlough, because you have a GA person up on the mountain, you have a soccer person, a boxing person, a rugby person. The way it's done, there's a nice blend in it. I don't want to take anyone off the mountain. You know what I mean? Like, what would you think, Adrian?
Like Pamela Gravel was definitely sitting there as I didn't have her in consideration for the top 4 until I heard your argument about her, and what she's achieved is unbelievable. Like that Galway game, Westmeath were 7 points down. I think at half time she scored 9 points in the game. Like, and it's not only to do with that, as you said. There's the bigger emphasis. My top four. If you want to swap one in, we'll swap one in, and we'll figure something to get one of them out there. But I would leave the top 4, my 4 as the 4.
So is that it then? Are we sticking with Adrian's because of the nice democratic the decision to spread it across 4 sports with Turlough, Desi Dolan, John Joe Nevin and Robbie Henshaw? We've just got to wrap up here. So are you happy with that, Connor? Is the question.
You get to shout.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep it as it is. Yeah, at this point, just from honestly educating myself over the last couple of days, Turlough is he's a real sporting legend. Like I couldn't disrespect him by taking him down.
Well, it's an exceptional Mount Rushmore. Just to confirm, it's Turlough O'Connor, Desi Dolan, John Joe Nevin, Robbie Henshaw. Before we let you go, Connor, where is this mountain in Westmeath?
The Hill of Uisneach.
Perfect. You happy with that, Adrian?
No, what we need to do is look at the record we have as a county of transporting like brilliant things from West Kerry up to Westmeath. We've no mountain high enough. Let's ship a lot of West Kerry Ventry rock up to Shannon, and we can put it wherever Conor decides he wants to put it after that. Pile it on top of the Hill of Uisneach. That's good for me.
Lads, great stuff. Enjoyed it. Up Westmeath.
Cheers, lad.
Come on, Conor, fair play. Thanks.
Have a good one.
OTB AM's Mount Rushmore.